Here I've got on the left hand side class dog, and class dog has one instance variable right here, string name, and three methods: public void bark, which gives us system.out.println. It's going to give us the name, whatever the name is, based on this test class over here on the right, and the text that says woof woof. That's it for bark. Then we've got public void eat that also uses system.out.println. It's also going to generate the name based on over here on the right and says gobble gobble. And then we've got a last one, public void chase cat. Again, system.out.println just to spit out some kind of output. Name plus is gaining on that stray cat. So we've got three methods and one instance variable for class dog. Now over here we're going to create a separate class called public class dog test that is going to create a dog reference variable that's going to be able to use name and set a name and call bark or call eat or call chase cat if whichever method you want to call from this separate file. So we got to use the public static void main string args execution statement to turn the program on. Now here we're going to make a simple dog object and access it from this file, this separate file. So we use the name of this class, which is dog. This is our object, and then we give it a new reference variable name. So dog1 equals new dog. So now we've created a brand new dog object with the reference variable called dog1. So now we can use dog1 with the dot operator to access name and bark. So we have dog1.name equals Bart. So we've accessed the dot name over here, and we've actually given it a specific name, in this case Bart. We've used it also with the dot operator to call the bark method. So this bark method right here is going to execute. The output is going to be the name, which we just created as Bart right here, and then the other words, a space, says woof woof. Okay, so that's what this first thing did. Now we're going to make a dog array and access the dog object another way. So here again we use the name of the class, which is dog, and since we're creating an array we have to use the straight brackets right here, which indicates an index for an array. We gave that array a reference name, and we set it equal to new dog, and then since this is array we have to decide how many elements we would like in this array. So this particular array we're going to give 3 elements. The first thing we do is we have to actually set it to a new create a new dog object the same way we did dog1 equals new dog here. We have to do the same thing with each of these array elements. So we use the name of the array reference that we created, dogs array, and then we use this index symbol, and the first element in an array has an index of 0, and we have to set that to new dog, same way we did up here. Dogs array 0 index equals new dog. So now the very first element object has been created for the array. We're going to do it again. Dogs array with an index of 1 equals new dog. So now we have created the second element of this dogs array that has 3 elements. The third array, we're doing something a little different just to show you how these references work. We use the name again, dogs array, and index 2, which since this starts at 0, this is actually the third element, and we're setting that, instead of setting that to a brand new dog object, we're going to set that equal to dog1, which is something that we created up here outside of the array. So here, if you think about it, setting that element to dog1 is setting it to the name of Bart, and it's allowing it to do the bark method. Now we're going to access the dog using the array references. These are the array references. So dogs array 0 index dot name equals Fred. Since we've created a new object this way, we can now use the dot operator and the name and give it Fred. Dogs array 1 dot name equals Margie. So now we've got three different dogs with three different names. When we did it this way outside of the array, we gave dog 1 the name of Bart. When we created the two new objects using an array, we created the names Fred and Margie, and we set the last element of that array to dog 1, which we gave the name of Bart. Okay, then we're going to use system.out.print. We want to see the last dog's name, which is this one, so that you can see how that works. The last dog's name is, with a space, plus dogs array index 2 dot name. After that, we are going to loop through the array and tell all the dogs to bark. So before we get to the while loop, we have to create a new variable to hold the counter. So we have int x equals 0. Then we have the while keyword, and while what's in these parentheses is true, while x is less than dogs array length, which remember we created dogs array length to have 3 elements, but the last index of the element is a 2. While this loop is less than the size of the array, then dogs array x dot bark. So x is initially 0, so the first thing it's going to do is it's going to say dogs array 0 dot bark. Well, dogs array 0 dot bark is Fred. So it should say Fred, and then since we're using the bark method over here, it should say Fred says woof woof. Then we're going to increment x up by 1, and then it's going to go back, then it's going to be at the end of the loop, and it's going to go back up here. So now x is 1, so 1 less than dogs array length, which is still less than the 3 elements. So now it's going to be dogs array 1 dot bark. Well, dogs array 1 is Margie, so the next line should say Margie says woof woof. Then it's going to increment this x up again from 1 to 2, and while 2 is less than dogs array length, 2 is still less than 3, dogs array with the index of 2 dot bark. Well, remember, dogs array 2 is set to dog 1, and dog 1 dot name is set to Bart. Bart. So the last thing that we should get, dogs array 2 dot bark, should be Bart, and it should run this bark method, and it should say Bart says woof woof. And then it's going to increment x up again, so now x is going to be 2 plus 1, so x is going to be 3, and it's going to ask the question, it's going to do the while loop again, it's going to ask the question, 3 less than dogs array length. Well, 3, the dogs array length is 3, so 3 is not less than 3. So it jumps out of this while loop, and since there is nothing left to this code, we get to the end of the main and the end of the class dog test. So now I've went over both of these separate files, the dog class over here and then this dog test class over here that's going to create references of dog and then use the name or the bark method. So let me open up my command prompt. Let me hit run, CMD, going to get our command prompt. Now my files are all in this folder right here called Head First Java. You open this folder and then you have to go inside of box, then you have to go inside the chapter 3 folder, and that's where these Java files that I just created reside. See, where are they? Up here, dog Java and dog test Java. Now I don't have dog.class or dog.test.class yet because I have not compiled this. This is what I'm going to get ready to do right now. And in that case, this chapter 3 folder will also have the dog class and the dog test class created by Java. Let me see if I can copy and paste this where these reside. It might be easier. So if I have home, I'm not sure if this will work right or not. I'm going to hit CD for change directory, and then I'm going to hit Control V. Oh, that didn't work. Paste. I right click and paste. Okay, this is where I want it to go. So I'm going to see how that works. That created the path to chapter 3. Let me hit enter. Okay, it did work. So now that I'm in the chapter 3 folder, let me move this over a little bit. Now that I'm in the chapter 3 folder, I want you to watch what happens to the contents of this chapter 3 folder once I compile this. These are all the files that I have in chapter 3 right now. Again, dog Java and dog test Java, nothing with the .class extension. When I compile this, if there are no errors in my code, those will show up here. So what I want to do is I want to hit the Java C keyword and dog test.java, enter. It compiled cleanly. So do you see how these class files magically appeared? I have dog.class and dogtest.class. I'm good to go. So now I'm going to just hit Java dog test. Now I'm going to actually run the program and we're going to see the output. I'm going to hit enter. Okay, Bart says woof woof. Last dog's name is Bart. Okay, now I need to put a new line in here because it immediately says Fred says woof woof, Margie says woof woof, and Bart says woof woof. So let me go back to the Notepad++ and not this. Let's try this one and this one. Last dog's name is Bart. Last dog's name is plus dog array2 dot name. Let me concatenate a \n for a new line. And then let me see if Fred says woof woof will go down instead of these two things being on the same line. So I have to save my files in Notepad++. Then I have to recompile again. Anytime you make a change in Java, you have to recompile it and then rerun it. And last dog's name is Bart. Okay, so now Fred says woof woof actually went on another line. What I could do, I could actually add another \n to give a space between those two, not just put it down one line, but actually give it a space as well. So let me, again, I saved that, and let me recompile and rerun. Java C first, and then Java next. So now you see the space I have. Bart says woof woof. Last dog's name is Bart. Fred says woof woof. Margie says woof woof. And Bart says woof woof. So I have basically showed you how to create an object. This class dog, it has one instance variable, 3 methods. Then I created a test class here and created object reference variables. In this case, just a simple dog object, and I accessed the name and the bark method, and I created an output. And then I did the same thing with an array, and I just showed you the two different ways to do it, making a simple dog object and a dog object using an array. And then I also showed you a while loop so that you could see how it loops through the array and feeds you information about each of the dog array elements bark method. And that concludes this video.